everyone, this is Charlotte from Maisie Darling Bridal Boutique, and today I'm joined by the lovely Heather from Sash Veil, and she is going to talk to you about the most important things for you to consider when you are choosing your veil. It's lovely to have you, Heather. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me at this very strange time. But it's good to talk about, I think it's good to talk about these kind of things that take our mind away.
Definitely.
From what's going on out there for a while. So, yeah.
And veils is such a lovely subject. So you chat away and tell us all about it.
Okay, well, I thought I'd start by saying when I get an inquiry from brides, mostly they'll come to me and say, I don't know where to start with a veil. Help me. Yeah. Which is fair enough, because until you get married, you would probably not have had anything to do with veils. I mean, dresses are different. We all wear dresses, but a veil is a different thing. And so that's where I come in, and it's my favourite subject. So I'm very happy to, as I said earlier, I have got pages and pages of veil information. But anyway, so the first thing I would say to consider, the very first thing is your dress. Now, unless you are going to start from the veil or the accessories, which a few brides do, and I would say probably in the case where you have got an heirloom veil that you want to wear, something that's been in the family for a while, and you would probably start from an accessories point of view and design around that. But usually, most of the time, you would choose your dress and then you'd accessorize from there. So get your dress sorted, not necessarily in your hand, but buy it, order it, so you know what kind of dress you're going to have. And then the next thing I would do, once you know your dress, you have your dress, I would think about your look as a whole. So think about how, once you've got your dress and once you have your veil, how do you want your look to be? How would you like people to see you? How do you want your partner to see you? So think, are you going for big and dramatic? Do you want a big flowing dramatic look? Do you want something more minimalist, something very modern and sleek? Are you going vintage? Are you going retro? Just think of the whole look, and that will give you an idea of the kind of veil you'll be looking for. So once you've got that kind of idea in mind, I would then start to think about putting together some ideas physically. So a Pinterest board, everybody uses Pinterest. I'm terrible with Pinterest. I should be better, but it hates me. But anyway, I like physical boards. So what I tend to do when I'm trying to get ideas together is get magazines or anything, actually cut things out and stick them on. So that's another way to do it. You could get a big one of these cork boards you can get quite cheaply and just stick loads of ideas together. Or a Pinterest board is great as well, or different boards. And then get some ideas on there. I would add your ideas of your florals, your shoes, any colour themes you're having, any themes you're having. You might have a retro theme or a deco theme or something. If you're having any themes, then put that all on the board. And your hairstyle is really important when you're choosing your veil, so put some hairstyle ideas on there. Colours, obviously, if I haven't said that already. Jewellery, put everything together, so then you have in front of you an idea of, again, the look you want, but you've got all of the elements together. And at that point, whether you're going into a shop like yourself or you're coming directly to me, then if you say to me, I'd like to design a veil with you, then it's a good starting point for me to so that I know what you have in mind, and I can get an idea of what I think you would like. So then you would look at, the next thing would probably look at lengths. So again, this would depend on the overall look that you want to go for. If you're going for a long veil, think about where you're getting married. So if you're getting married in a chapel or a cathedral or some kind of church setting, you would probably, a long veil would suit, or on a beach, for example, something where you've got a lot of room. If you're getting married in an urban setting, a town wedding, city wedding, register office, for example, then you probably would want something shorter, something that's not just consider you've got to carry all this jewel around. So something a bit more convenient, and also it's going to be dragging on the floor. If you're getting married in a city, then think about it's going to get dirty, and that's a consideration with length. Also think about whether you want to wear it all day. Do you want to wear, some brides will come to me and say, I only want to wear it for the ceremony, then I want to take it off. If you would like to wear it all day, then think about also length. A shorter veil is obviously easier for you to carry around. Think about your photographs. So a veil is an amazing prop to have in your photographs, and you've probably seen online all these lovely veil shots of, veils being, I don't know, blowing in the wind, or with children underneath, that kind of thing. So again, think about whether that's the kind of thing you want to use the veil as a prop. What else would I say? Yes, if you're going for a long veil, then make sure it's about, I don't know, 25 centimetres longer than the dress. So it trails longer than the dress, because otherwise it tends to cut across the silhouette, and you want to keep a lovely kind of silhouette going. And you don't want the veil to cut across, unless you're going for short, of course, and that's a different matter. And then also, if you're having embroidery on the bottom of the veil, for example, you've got that kind of, I call it a veil window. So you've got that stretch, that little bit of tulle at the bottom that trails just beyond your dress. And if you've got embroidery or some embellishment on there, then that can look quite nice, especially in photographs. Shall I continue?
Yeah, please do.
I was going to say width is really important when it comes to a veil as well. Length is important, but the width of the veil, the volume of the veil is really important. So if you're quite short, if you're quite slight, I wouldn't go for too wide a veil. It can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of tulle going on. So I would go for a narrower veil. I tend to work with 3 widths: a narrow, which is about 150 centimetres, medium width to 200 to 240, and then full width, which is the widest veil you can get, 300 centimetres each. And yeah, consider the width of the veil when you're ordering. A very wide veil gives you lots and lots of tulle. If you're going for a very dramatic sweeping look, then a wide veil is probably the best bet, especially if you've got a long train and a wide train as well. So the veil will cover the train at the bottom, and that gives you a lovely kind of, dramatic fairy tale look. If you're going for more of a boho look, then I think the narrower veils are quite popular. And also, if you're going for a very modern look, sleek modern look, then I would go for a medium width, something that just follows that sort of modern clean line.
Yeah.
Colour.
Yeah.
Colour is important, of course. I don't think personally that your veil needs to, if you have a coloured dress, I don't think the veil has to match.
Yeah.
Obviously you can have it to match, as long as it matches tonally, as long as it has the same colour tone to it. You can have a slight contrast, but as long as it works with the dress, I don't think it needs to be exactly the same shade. And also consider that the dress and the veil will be different fabrics, so you're never going to get an exact colour unless they are made, unless your designer makes them from the same fabric. In terms of colour, again, I would say if you've got different colours to your dress, sometimes it's a mocha undertone or a sort of more of a champagne undertone with a lace overlay. Yeah. Always go for the lighter colour, because it will lighten the whole look. Some brides come to me and say they've got a mocha dress, or there's lots of different colours, names the designers use, but a darker dress, and then when I see the pictures, it's got it's quite often got a lace overlay or some kind of top to it that's lighter.
Yeah.
Early on, when I first started doing this, I had a bride like that, and we tried to match to the darker colour, and it just looked dirty. And I found that it seems to be the case usually. So it's always best to match the veil to the lighter colour.
Yeah, that's
usually.
Advice.
Yeah.
I think you'd naturally think to go with the darker colour, wouldn't you, to pick that out? But that's
definitely. Really, but I do find that I mean, by all means try it and see if you like the look. I have found that it just doesn't, it brings the colour down.
Yeah.
To match to the lighter, ties the veil in. It's light, it's, you know, tying into a colour in your look. But it keeps the look light and kind of airy looking, and I don't know, it just works better, I think.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yes, were you going to ask me a question?
No, sorry. I was just really considering that, because I think that that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah. Also, excuse me. Consider the tulle. I tend to use two mainly. A very lightweight silky tulle, which is a synthetic tulle, and it's very much like silk, but it's not silk. It has a draping look to it, and it falls around you when you move. It doesn't stand on its own. And the other one I use, I call SV Illusion, which has a certain crispness to it. It slightly stands out from the body. It tends to be slightly more transparent. So these two I use mainly. I do use silk sometimes. I'm careful where I source my silk.
Yeah.
And I would say that I'm not keen on using it, but I will. But it's very expensive, and it tends to crease easily. I'm not saying it isn't beautiful, it is. It's very luxurious. And it also snags. That's another thing to consider.
Okay.
If you've got any beading on your dress or some of those claw beads, silk will snag quite easily. And if there's a breeze or something, you don't really want your veil caught up in your dress.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. Embellishments?
Yes. They seem
Have
quite
what
popular.
you like. Sorry?
Are they becoming quite popular?
Yeah, I think more so. Sequins are becoming really popular. When I first started, not many people had sequins, but I'm finding that's become really popular now.
Okay.
And they can look beautiful. I found a stockist, a supplier who has every sequin imaginable.
Wow.
The colours are just beautiful, but unfortunately they're obviously, like everything else, they're closed at the moment, so I can't get hold of any, but I wish I had before we closed down, because I would have gone a bit mad designing with those. But I can usually get really beautiful sequins. Crystals, I use crystals quite often still. If you're choosing crystals, make sure you choose your veil with veiling crystals, because they are transparent. Some cheaper veils tend to not use veiling crystals, which have a backing, almost like a grey backing. And they look beautiful when you first look at them, but in photographs they can look dotty because the grey backing will show through. So just be really careful when you're picking. If you're going for crystal, just make sure that they're veiling crystals. Pearls are really popular now.
Yeah.
I use half pearls and floating pearls. So the floating pearls are, you can see on both sides of the fabric. The fabric's kind of sandwiched in between. Lace, of course. Lace is always popular. I find 3D lace is becoming more popular now as well. So you've got a bit more texture. Yeah. It's quite good to match the lace or coordinate the lace with your dress lace. And I always say that if you are having any dress alterations, and you can save offcuts from the lace, or from any part of the dress actually, and we can always incorporate them onto the comb, or if there's enough, sometimes you can cut out motifs from the lace and applique them on the veil if there's enough. So that looks quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yes.
I noticed on your Instagram page that people are having their initials put onto veils now.
Yes, embroidery. Pardon?
How do you do that? What do you use to do that?
I embroider it by hand.
Okay.
It's just I prefer hand. It's just part of my background, what I've always done. I love to, I don't really like using machines so much. I like doing it by hand. So I tend to do it by hand with an embroidery hoop, and people will come to me with an idea, a song lyric, or sometimes they'll just have initials and a date or something meaningful that, some meaningful words that might not mean anything to anybody else.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice, actually. I had recently a bride wanted her goose, like the outline of a goose embroidered on the veil. I don't know why, I didn't ask, but that was meaningful to her and her partner. So I can, pretty much put anything on there, but embroidery has really become really popular. So that's a nice thing to do because it gives it meaning, and it personalises it. So and all of my designs can be personalised like that pretty much, I think, with an embroidered message or initials or whatever you like, actually. I was just going to say about the design of the veil. There are obviously lots of different designs, from a full width veil to a narrow, very narrow kind of veil that just falls to the back. A waterfall veil is quite an interesting design, and it gives, if you've got a very narrow dress, or if your dress hasn't got any shoulder coverage or arm coverage, sometimes brides like to be able to pull something forward, just because when you're first going into the ceremony you might feel like you just want something to make you feel a bit covered. Some people like, especially if it's a church wedding. So waterfall veil, because it falls over the shoulders and is slightly shorter at the front and then cascades longer at the back, that's a nice idea. That's a nice kind of design to choose, and it gives you something to pull forward if you feel like it. And then when you're feeling a bit braver or a bit later, you can push the waterfall to the back, and then you get two different looks with the veil without having to wear a cover up or anything. So and capes as well, of course. Capes are really popular. So that's another idea. If you want the drama of a veil, you want to be able to sweep into your ceremony with something trailing behind you, billowing behind you, then you don't want anything on your head necessarily, then a cape is a really good idea as well, because it just attaches here, just on your shoulders, or slightly further down if you like, with two little tiny pins, and it just kind of flows behind you. So,
and does the same go for the capes, that you can embroider them, you can embellish them, you can have them in different colours? Yeah,
exactly. So you can have pretty much treat the cape as you would a veil. Everything's possible with a cape. So you can have the same embroideries and pearls and crystals and petals, all of them if you like. If you want to go extra, you can go extra, that's fine with me. So a cape can be embellished the same as a veil, and also the same goes with the width. So I would say usually go for a medium width cape, but if you want something with a bit more volume and your dress is quite wide at the bottom, you've got a wide train, then I would go for a full width cape. And also with a cape, it can be cut into a waterfall at the side, so you can get that cascading look. So it's not kind of going straight down.
Yes, that sounds nice.
So that's another idea. I think in a nutshell, that's the first thing to consider. Oh, budget as well, of course.
Yes.
Weddings are expensive, and I would say to brides to be try and because when you first come into the ceremony, or you know, if you're getting married in a church or wherever you're getting married, when you first walk in, everybody's going to be looking at you. So they're going to be looking at your face, and therefore your head and your veil. So I would say to give your veil consideration. Obviously your dress is the big number, but do give some thought to the veil, because it's quite an important part of your outfit. It's something that is probably the first thing that will be noticed, because it's on your head, and you don't want to be spending like all this money on an amazing dress and then your veil is not really working with it, or it's, you know. So I would say to do consider a veil, do consider the veil and how it's going to work with the whole look.